so it is showing no signs of stopping. And as Clinton allies are continuing to snipe at Sanders, well, with one former advisor recently tweeting that only half of Bernie's donors will, quote, name Vladimir. Wow. Now even President Trump weighing in. He's getting in on the fun. Crooked Hillary Clinton confirms she will not run in 2020. Rules out a third bid for the White House. Ah, shucks. Does that mean I won't get to run against her again? She will be sorely missed. And even without Hillary Clinton, 2020 is shaping up to be a very, very toxic year for the Democrats. Now, their issues are much larger than any of this infighting. This is where it gets serious. The Democrats' biggest problem is they are pushing the most radical agenda of any party in this country's history. By the way, before birth, up to birth, during birth, after birth, abortions, that is called infanticide. That is a child living alone outside the womb. That would be called murder. That's the party of the Democrats now? The party telling you it might be reckless to have kids like Ocasio-Cortez? The party that wants to take away all private health care insurance. They want to socialize, nationalize health care. Now they're talking about legalizing drugs and prostitution. That's gaining momentum among the 2020 candidates. Reparations is now backed by many candidates like Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren. Many are supporting this top marginal tax rate of 70%. And by the way, after you pay your 70% and get to keep maybe 30, maybe not, depending what state you live in, well, if you save some money, then Elizabeth Warren wants a wealth tax on top of it. She wants another bite at the apple. And then, by the way, when you die in the United States of America, you got to pay to die. If you have any money left in your bank account, guess what? They're going to take 40% of that. And if you live in New York, they'll take another 10%. And by the way, so they can take care of people that are unwilling to work. And, of course, pay for child care and retirement and government food and health care and college. They're going to eliminate fossil fuels, gas and oil. They're going to destroy the lifeblood of our economy. They're going to get rid of planes, mandate you rebuild your home. Who's paying for that? The estimates now are as high as $94 trillion in 10 years. That's their proposal. Pushing open borders. Remember, Bozo O'Rourke actually wants to tear down the border walls, preventing any of us from being safe and secure. That would leave all of us defenseless against cartels and drug traffickers and human traffickers of young women into prostitution, gangs that make this country totally defenseless. The 90% of heroin that comes through our southern border now gets through even more easily. And don't forget, free everything. Health care, college, child care, vacations, free healthy government food. It's a party that is totally fueled by a desire to run your life, take your hard-earned money, give it to someone else, and use it to buy power and votes for themselves as they live the lap of luxury. A party committed to destroying the single greatest, best economic system that has led more people out of poverty, that has created more wealth and prosperity, that has created more opportunity than any other economic system in the history of man. A Democratic Party with no plan to make your life better, or safe, more secure, more prosperous, for not only you, but for your children and your grandchildren. They are fueled, too, by a rage, a hate, an obsession with victimhood and identity politics, entitlement, pushing doom and gloom day and night, climate hysteria, indoctrinating your kids into believing the world is ending in 12 years, just to push the socialist agenda. A party fueled by what can only be described as psychotic, literally unhinged, rage and hatred every second, minute, hour of every day against the duly elected president. And they're not even trying to hide it. Just today, we learned that shifty Adam Schiff hired former MSNBC legal analyst, collusion conspiracy theorist Daniel Goldman to lead this new witch hunt against the president and the House Intel Committee. Forget the Mueller report. That's not working out the way we want. We'll rewrite it. And as the Daily Caller points out, Goldman has already been caught asserting baseless Russia hysteria. Look at the screen. He was promoting the phony Steele dossier, the debunked Steele dossier, even debunked by Michael Cohen, who never went to Prague. And there were no hookers urinating in Donald Trump's bed in Moscow. They weren't there. Now we have more evidence. Endless fishing expeditions have nothing to do with the truth. everything to do with making every working day a public trial against the president. Look at this. Even David Axelrod has more sense than this. Former chief strategist for Obama agreeing, writing on Twitter, that the Democrats' wide-ranging investigations too easily play into the witch hunt meme. Look at that. He's right. And that's because the Democrats are engaging in a witch hunt. All right, here with reaction, as we now are looking at two very distinct paths for the future. Fox News contributor Dan Bongino, along with Fox News correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera.
Wow, that was hot. That was really scorching. I mean, the president should listen to you. That's what the Republican platform
he gets accused of that, and it's just total BS, but whatever.
Well, I don't know about that. Yeah. All I know is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez makes a very convenient target. What do you want it to be, Gandhi? You wanted to go begging with a, a wooden bowl and getting some rice and living in poverty?
100 Democrats support this crap.
The Democrats will die as a result of their own, philosophical, misguided pursuit of these sophomoric goals. But to have the enthusiasm of youth being attacked that way, what if it was a young Irish kid who came from your neighborhood and he got elected against all odds? You would love it too. I feel pride in her. She's me at the age of 26. When you have long hair and your mustache is out to here, and you want to solve everything. You want everybody kumbaya, get around the campfire.
You broke one of the biggest stories in America.
I was 27.
Right, that profoundly changed how we treat people in this country with serious mental health issues. You single-handedly changed that.
Let me say one sentence. They love her in the Bronx. My 3 grandchildren live in her district. I went to college in her district. She may have the most far-fetched ideas that are totally implausible or impractical, but she has heart. Sean, she's a sincere person. And the president is ticking up in the polls because he agrees with you. Adults agree that you need a pragmatic approach to life. You got to pay for what you spend.
Let me bring in Dan Bongino, because Dan, the problem is, look, they just now we got 100 Democrats now supporting this insanity that would eliminate cows, cars, engines, and oil and gas and airplanes. I mean, they're serious. Yeah. And then I'm looking at, okay, now they've pledged not to work for the American people 24/7. All it is they're going to cast the widest net, bring in all these people, cost them a fortune in legal fees because they want to destroy Trump. They're not working to serve the people in their districts or the American people at large.
No, they're not. But, Geraldo, can I just hit something you said there? Listen,
sure.
I know you better. You can't seriously be claiming that people are going after some of these ideas with Ms. Cortez because of her minority status as a woman. I hope you're not saying that. I have on this network many times, you can check the tapes, check the YouTubes, whatever, said, hey, congratulations, she did a great job. I ran for Congress. I lost. She won. It's very hard to do. But, Geraldo, to say she has a heart...
Don't be bitter, Dan.
Socialism does... No, hold on, time out. Socialism doesn't have a
because of my
heart.
endorsements.
Yeah, right.
Socialism kills people, Geraldo. No
socialism is over. Socialism is so yesterday.
But
let the kids enjoy. Let them revel in the possibility that everything can be wonderful. That everybody in South Asia can have a Cadillac. I mean,
Geraldo,
that is the fuel of youth.
Would you say the same thing about fascism? What if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was promoting fascism? Would you say she had a heart?
Of course not, but she's not.
Why would you say it about socialism?
Because socialism seeks to... I am not a socialist. I am a capitalist. I am a Republican. But I understand the generosity of the concept of socialism. Not the
slow down for a second. What? She says we can't fly in planes. She flies in planes. She says, we got to get rid of cars. She's in cars. She doesn't ride her bike. You know what? This is the hypocrisy. Liberals are only generous with other people's money, Geraldo.
Yes.
If they want... Look at Nancy Pelosi. We sent our cameras to her district. We saw homeless people, feces, and needles everywhere. And she's a multi-millionaire. Why can't she build a homeless shelter so they can shower and give treatment to the drug addicts?
I am not here to speak in favor of Nancy Pelosi. I don't know what she does with her private money. I don't know what charity she supports or does not support. All I know is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez represents an ideal to many youngsters that you mock but it really, you have to be more generous. Now that we know what works, the president knows what works. You know, the economy, just saw the new survey, is up to 56%.
Is this political suicide?
If the Democrats, the grown-up, I don't mean to be demeaning to her, but if the old guard of the Democratic Party,
edit Geraldo, get him out of trouble.
If the old guard of the Democratic Party embraces this archaic solution to modern problems,
what about the investigations? What about 24/7?
I think the same thing I think about Stormy Daniels. I think that there is no intent there. This is a very complex. The Federal Election Commission laws, they're very complicated. I don't see any.
Where does this go?
Any larcenous intent.
The 8 committees that are not serving the American people, that are just looking to bludgeon Trump and cast a wide net and investigate anything because I guess Mueller's not giving them what they want.
Well, it'll be the death of the Democrat Party, and I wish Geraldo would stop saying that this is some kind of generous system. People in Venezuela are eating out of garbage trucks. Sean, the footage has been on our network. You had the Univision anchor on there who had actual Jorge Ramos with actual footage of people eating.
I covered Venezuela. I know Venezuela very well, but I think that they are thinking more of Sweden and Denmark and
generous socialism
the Baltic nations. One thing I want to say before we run out of time. There's no collusion. That's big news. The Democrats will kill themselves with these investigations. They are investigating everybody. I'm sure they'll investigate me for speeding yesterday. This is the end of the party.
All right. Thank you both. All right. Directly ahead, President Trump says Democrats are guilty of presidential harassment. Judge Jeanine and Alan Dershowitz answer that question. In other words, have we criminalized political differences? Democrats allowed to abuse their power with investigations when they don't even know what they're investigating? Straight ahead.
Counter-terror police in London examining 3 explosive devices found in the British capital. They were sent in plastic mailing bags to 2 airports and a busy train station. The first package was found on the grounds of Heathrow Airport. It caught fire, but nobody was injured, and flights were not affected. A second device turned up in the mail room of the busy Waterloo train station. A third package was found at the administration building for City Airport, a smaller commercial airport. President Trump approving a disaster declaration for Alabama following Sunday's deadly and destructive tornadoes. The declaration now frees up federal aid to those affected. One twister killed 23 people in Lee County. The youngest victim was 6 years old. The oldest victim was 89. And up to 8 people remain missing. If news breaks out, we'll break in. I'm Trace Gallagher. Now back to Hannity.
We got 81 letters. There was no collusion. There was a hoax. There was no anything. And they want to do that instead of getting legislation passed.
That was the president blasting the Democrats in their announcement of, 8 committees, endless investigations earlier today. He continued on Twitter. He wrote, quote, now that they realize the only collusion with Russia was done by crooked Hillary Clinton, and the Democrats, Nadler, Schiff, and the Dem heads of committees have now gone stone cold crazy. 81 letters sent to innocent people to harass them. They won't get anything done for our country. The greatest overreach in the history of our country. Dems are obstructing justice. They will not get anything done. A big, fat fishing expedition desperately in search of a crime when, in fact, the real crimes is what the Dems are doing and have done. President, as I said last night, he's correct. But that means nothing to the Democrats. They love a good anti-Trump, never-ending witch hunt. Just listen to what Congressman Gerald Nadler, who over the weekend declared him guilty before he even started the investigation, said.
We have to, you've had 2 years of sustained attacks by an administration of the nature that we haven't seen probably in a century or more against the free press, against the courts, against the law enforcement administrations, against freedom of speech. We have to make sure as to what is true and what is not true, and maybe come up with legislative limits on power, or maybe do other things. But we have to make sure that this is not a dictatorship and that the rule of law is respected.
It reminds me of the old Stalinist mantra, show me the man, I'll find you the crime. All of this suddenly surrounding a duly elected president of the United States, all under the banner of, quote, protecting democracy. These investigations have nothing to do with protecting you, we, the American people. Instead, they really only care about imposing their own hate Trump agenda. Here now with reaction, Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz is with us. He wrote the introduction to the Constitution and will write an introduction to the Mueller report when it is released. That's news. And also the author of Liars, Leakers, Liberals, #1 bestseller, the host of Justice, Judge Jeanine Pirro. I didn't know that, Professor. Number one, how did that come about? And more importantly, you know, show me the crime, I'll show you the man. 8 committees. They don't even have anything specific they're looking at. You have talked about criminalizing political differences. This is worse than I've ever seen it.
Well, it's not worse than I've ever seen it. I lived through McCarthy period when Congress misused
McCarthyism.
its oversight function to go after people, some innocent, some guilty. Look, Congress has a legitimate oversight function to perform, but it has to make sure it doesn't go too far. It can't use that oversight function, which is really designed to help get legislation in order to really prevent a president from finishing out his terms and acting, and they're interfering with the executive branch if they do so. A balance has to be struck between the legitimate function of Congress to investigate. The framers didn't intend for Congress to become yet another prosecutorial branch, yet another investigative branch. They're supposed to pass laws, and so it seems to me these investigations look like they're going too far.
Are you or have you ever been a supporter of Donald Trump? There is no reason to initiate 8 committees, the widest net I've ever seen, because it appears they're not getting Robert Mueller, the big promise of Robert Mueller that they've been pushing for 2 years.
Well, you know, Sean, they're already setting that up. I mean, Nadler has pretty much said, we don't care what Mueller is going to say. We're going to do our own investigation. Look, the bottom line is that this committee does have the right to look at a lot of things, but it's going to backfire because the American people understand that the economy is doing well, that they've got jobs, and on and on. And these Dems have been having a hissy fit since Hillary lost her crown. They boycotted the inauguration. Then they wanted to impeach him. Then they brought in a special counsel and alleged collusion. Now they've got committees that will, for the next 2 years, do nothing but investigate and aggravate Donald Trump and everyone close to him, Sean, in an attempt to alienate him from the people who are closest to him. And here's the bottom line. Trump's numbers are 48% in polls and 93% among Republicans. Congress is at 13%. The American people get it. Congress should be doing its job and not doing nothing but trashing Donald Trump.
I know we have some political differences, Professor, but let's put them aside for a second. If this is their commitment for the next 2 years, rather than laying out an agenda for peace and safety and security and economic growth and prosperity for Americans, and they support this. You don't support this new Green Deal. You're too intelligent to support anything that insane. But 100 Democrats in Washington do. Then they're going to spend all the rest of their time, you know, looking for a crime and wasting all the time doing that. I don't think this is a good thing politically for Democrats.
No, I don't either. And in fact, there is some legal recourse. If you go back to the cases in the 1950s, the courts sometimes did say, look, Congress, you've gone too far. This is not within your legitimate function. And so if I were one of the people who got a letter or a subpoena, I would at least think about the possibility of bringing a lawsuit and suggesting that Congress is abusing its oversight function. As far as the environment is concerned, I'm a strong supporter of the environment, but we need a balanced environmental concerns.
We can't get rid of oil and airplanes and cows. We need cows. I like to eat steak.
Obviously, that's true.
I'll buy you a steak, Professor. Last word.
And look, what they are looking to do with this Green Deal is they want to control what you eat. And, you know, we're getting bits and pieces out of it. We know they want to take planes out of the sky, that we have to rebuild our homes. But when AOC said last week, at the end of the week, she said, look, I'm not saying everyone has to be a vegan, but you don't need to eat hamburgers 3 times a day, folks. Let's get real. They want to control everything that we do. And I find it shocking that they say that they need to investigate the president, not for a crime, but for anything. And as prosecutors, we learned you investigate a crime, not a man.
All right, when we come back, Dems gearing up. Literally, they are proposing to eliminate all private health care. It's not a joke. I'm serious. They want to nationalize the entire healthcare industry, and they're saying so. We'll explain what this would mean for you and your family. A Hannity investigation. Now over 100 House Democrats are supporting, get this, a radical new health care proposal. It would ban all private insurance coverage, which means the government takeover of the entire health care industry, the Medicare for all. Good luck with that. In other words, socialism. You won't be allowed to, let's see, have your own private plan. Every socialism with this promise is free, 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 and then they're going to tax some people to death to pay for everything. Joining us now, Washington Times columnist Monica Crowley, former Obama economic advisor Austin Goolsbee. Yeah, keep your doctor, keep your plan, and pay less. That really worked out when millions lost their doctor's plans and everybody paid more. Now, here's the thing. I thought you liberals were pro-choice. So why is Kamala Harris and other 2020 candidates and 100 Democrats, Austin, why, if you're pro-choice, are you going to force Americans into a system that I have no faith in? Maybe you do. And if I want my 187 million Americans, then I guess it would be illegal to have your own private health insurance.
Sean, you're talking about Bernie Sanders' plan.
That's supported by Kamala Harris and 100 Democrats in Congress. Yeah, that plan.
It's only been endorsed by 2 of the 20 Democratic presidential candidates. The Medicare for All, that is, give everyone the choice to buy into Medicare, is supported by 78% of Americans, including 52% of Republicans.
Listen, pay close attention. I'm telling you what they said. Monica.
Look, the point of all of this is government power and control. It's not even about health care. That's just the pretext for what they talk about in order to seize more control over all of our lives. Remember back when they were debating Obamacare, Senator Tom Harkin, Nancy Pelosi, they all described it as a, quote, starter home, because the ultimate objective always was single payer. Now they have rebranded single payer as Medicare for All. And what they've done over the last several years, I just wrote a column about this in the Washington Times, is acclimate the public to the most extreme of their objectives, which is single payer, or it is the Green New Deal. Its achievability in the moment is not the point. The point is to get the public accustomed to it so that they can achieve it piecemeal, and before you know it, all of a sudden you've got single payer.
Well, I mean, do you support the Green New Deal, Austin? I mean, I would think you want to keep airplanes and cars, and I think you probably don't think we can guarantee everything's for free, and I think you probably agree that a 70% top marginal tax rate is bad.
Wait a minute.
And
now
that you want to keep cows. Wait a minute. I know you eat cows.
Look.
I bought you a cow. I bought you dinner.
Well, A, we're going to have to decide, are we going to bet on the next election again? Are we going to bet dinner? But you keep taking the most extreme case and trying to portray it like that's the median or that's what everyone thinks. And the next thing you're going to be telling me, your employer gives you 2 weeks of free paid vacation. And that's the beginning of socialism. That's what Brezhnev used to take.
70%
and
tax
that's
rate,
going to be Stalin's purges. They're paying them not to work. They're going on vacation.
It says that, even if you're unwilling to work. It's in the paper they put out.
Look, and now the Democratic Party is a party.
That was a non-binding resolution by somebody that's not a presidential candidate,
But it doesn't
so
matter, Austin. It doesn't matter. What we're talking about here is the fact that the Democratic Party now openly embraces socialism, right? So we've had this encroaching socialism. Barack Obama dressed it up pretty well. Bernie Sanders was out there in 2016. Now you have AOC, and you have 100 of these members of Congress openly embracing this. This is about radical wealth redistribution. It's about government power and control. And as Vladimir Lenin once said, Sean, the goal of socialism is communism.
Thank you both for being with us. And by the way, Austin, you may want to invest in cows. 10 years from now, it might be worth a lot of money.
Are we betting?
Frozen beef. It could be worth a fortune. All right. When we come back, a serious, shocking report about the FBI just breaking this hour. John Solomon, Sarah Carter, they have the details. That's next. With the Dems' never-ending investigation, the real scandals are right under the media's nose. They've missed it for 2 years, but the Hill's John Solomon has an explosive piece in the Hill showing how a top FBI counterintelligence official looked the other way despite all the red flags about star-crossed Trump-hating lovers Page and Strzok. Fox News contributor, investigative reporter Sarah Carter also out with a new report detailing how the Democrats' House Judiciary probe is simply searching for a crime to punish Trump and the Americans who voted for him. They both join us now. First, Sarah, let's get to you. In search of a crime means abuse of power, because you just don't cast a wide net and say, oh, let's see, if this doesn't work, if we don't have collusion, we'll investigate this, 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 and this. Maybe something will stick one day.
Sean, it goes against everything that we stand for, our justice system entirely. If you think about this, where's the due process? Where's the due process for President Trump? For the 81 people now that they're throwing this wide net out, and for the American people who voted for the president, who have literally been held hostage for 2 years by the Democrats as they continue to search for a crime. There is something drastically wrong here, and I don't think people actually realize how damaging and how dangerous this is. When I hear Alan Dershowitz, he is a voice of reason. I think to myself, this is what they used to think, the libertarians, the Democrats, they used to fight against this abuse of power. What we've seen, Sean, and you've listed it out, and we've talked about this over and over again, a weaponization of the intelligence community, the unmasking of Americans. I mean, all of these issues that are so...
dossier abuse.
FISA abuse.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let me bring in John.
And the leaking of classified information.
John, you can add the comments of obviously the security issues that were ignored in your column, which I think are important. We got two things that are happening simultaneously. One, we expect the Mueller report.
Right.
Two, what will the new Attorney General do? Will he do the right thing, starting with Hillary Clinton on down?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? And we're just going to have to wait and see. The Mueller report's going to come out. I feel very confident it will not find any criminal conduct against the president based on my reporting.
No collusion, no obstruction.
And that will trigger the opportunity. That's correct. That's what my understanding is. We'll see when it comes out. Let's judge it by the facts. But if that happens, then the first thing we know is that we saw the weaponization of the criminal justice system and the counterintelligence system against Donald Trump. And now you're going to see that sort of criminalization, weaponization of the congressional oversight process to try to keep this narrative going. So that's one thing the president has to deal with. The second thing is, does the Justice Department now say, okay, Mueller's done. Let's take a look at the Strokes and the McCabe's and the Pages and all these people that were involved in this, and do we hold them accountable? The IG report will come in on FISA abuses. That will inform us a lot. The president has the ability, without being accused of obstruction, of declassifying the documents.
Oh, that's all coming. I have no doubt.
All that information allows...
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. Now, let's just take the column just for 1 second. Just think about what Bill Barr could look at in this circumstance. 20 years ago, we had one of the worst spy scandals in American history. Robert Hansen spied for the Russians, went undetected for 20 years. The after-action report said the biggest problem the FBI had was a failure to confront its own people about suspected bad behavior. What happens? Two employees come forward and say, we think there's an affair going on by Pete Strzok and Lisa Page, and rather than confront them directly, they shut to the side. They don't take that security risk seriously, even though they said that everyone understood it was a security risk. No one wanted to ask the hard questions. We didn't learn much in the FBI over 20 years from the Hansen scandal. Those are the sort of things that Bill Barr, the Inspector General, the Senate Judiciary Committee can all look at.
All right, Sarah, you get the last word.
Well, I think the most important thing is that Attorney General Barr investigate, that we wait for Michael Horowitz's report, and that we bring people to justice who've abused the system. Sean, if we don't do this, then what are we? What do we stand on? How can we guarantee that in the next administration this won't happen? We can't. As Americans, we have to demand that, and I hope that President Trump declassifies those documents.
Oh, Barr does his job. And John, I hope, is right.